In this video, we're going to be doing a power jack repair on a Dell B130 laptop. First thing I want to do here is check the power adapter cord, make sure the cord is okay. A lot of times cords come in and they could be frayed, they could be bent, the pins could be messed up. So I take the voltmeter here and I set it to 20 volts because typically a laptop power adapter is 18 volts. And you're going to see I take the black tip and I put it on the outside of the pin, and I take the red tip and I put it on the inside of the pin, and I'm bending the cord around here to make sure that it's making a connection. You can see it was 19 volts, and that's correct. So we know the cord is okay at this point. The outside of the tip of the power adapter is usually negative, which is black, and the inside is usually positive, which is red. So that's why I did it that way. Now I'm testing to see if I jiggle the cord around in here, does it actually make the laptop go on or give it power? I want to just determine if it really is the power jack that's bad or not. And I'm bending and bending and it's still giving it no power. Now I know the power adapter's good, so therefore it's telling me that the jack is bad in the laptop, or it could be another motherboard problem. So we're going to open it up and see what's going on in there. I usually put a piece of foam down when I'm working on laptops just so I don't scratch the surface when I flip them over. That piece of foam is from, if you buy a motherboard, normal like MATX motherboard, that's usually the piece of foam that comes in the box, and they're great for working on laptops in this case. Now what I want to do is start taking out components. Like you see, I just pulled the battery out. Now I'm going to pull the RAM out, the wireless card out. Then I'm going to pull the hard drive out as well. Now, the reason I do this is I want to get everything out of the way. See, I'm going to be working on the motherboard. So anything that's attached to the motherboard or touching the motherboard that's going to be loose, I want to get it out. So the first thing I do when I do a power jack repair is I just take all the components that I can out of the computer. Now, in this case, there's a little flap there. You see, I lifted that flap up. It revealed the heatsink, which sits on top of the processor, so I could take that off as well. Sometimes you can't get to the heatsink until you open up the laptop all the way. And you'll see the processor sitting there under it. I'm going to pull off the wireless card. And I'll tell you a little bit later why it's really important to get the wireless card out of there. And then one screw, pull out that one screw and the CD drive comes out. Laptops. The key to working on laptops is, in my opinion, to get the motherboard out, you want to get the screen and the keyboard off first. And the key to getting the screen and the keyboard off is to remove that flap, that tab, that piece of plastic that sits right above the keyboard you saw me trying to pry open. Sometimes it's screwed in from the bottom. So I don't know if it's screwed in from the bottom or not in this computer, but I'm going to be taking all the screws out anyway, so I might as well pull out all the screws that appear to be under that plastic piece, just in case there is a screw holding it in. Then I'm going to pry it open just with a screwdriver. You'll see a lot of Dells on the right-hand side. There's a little tab there. You put a screwdriver in, it pulls it right up. Sometimes you got to get right under the hinge there. That's a good way to do it with a flathead screwdriver. And if the end is a little tricky to get off, I hit it again with the flathead screwdriver right under the hinge. Usually pops right off. Now don't force that. If you have to force it, there's probably screws holding it in. And then we got two screws holding the keyboard in here. Once those two screws are out, the keyboard should flop right up. Now what I'm doing is recharging my screwdriver magnetically. That's just a magnet that came out of a speaker or something, I believe. And when I lose a magnetic charge on my screwdriver, which I like to have to pull out screws, I just rub it up against that magnet and it recharges the screwdriver. Now the keyboard's going to flop up and over, and you have to pop that ribbon cable off, and there goes the keyboard. This is the LCD cable. After I get the keyboard out, I like to get the screen out of the way. A screen's a very delicate part of the computer, so let's get it out of the way so we don't mess it up when we're trying to get to the motherboard. So you want to pull out any connectors that are attached to the motherboard. This could be ribbon cables, this could be battery connections, this could be like trackpad connections, which I'm pulling out here. You don't want any of those ribbon cables attached to the motherboard, because when we pull the top plate off, those ribbon cables might rip if they're still attached. Now, in this particular computer, it's a little out of the frame. Okay, we're going to put it in. There's 2 screws holding the monitor in. These screw right into the hinges, and it keeps the monitor screwed right into the hinges. Now again, on this computer, you see I'm kind of recklessly throwing the screws into a pile. There's no particular way I'm taking them out because they're all labeled on this particular Dell. You can tell the size of the screws by the label next to the screw hole, which is great and if the computer offers that. A lot of Dells do, Toshiba does. And so now that the screen's off, we're just going to start unscrewing every screw that's holding the top plate on and the bottom plate on, because we want to get to that motherboard. If we could get to the power jack at this point straight on, I wouldn't have to do this step, but the power jack is hidden in between the two, the top and bottom cover, so we have to get them off to get to the power jack. Now I'm just pulling every screw, every place I see a screw hole, I'm taking that screw out of the bottom case. Now I'm not touching any screws on the motherboard itself, just the screws that are screwed into the case. Just going to give it a check there and make sure I got them all, and then make sure I got the same ones done on the top. And if the case comes apart as easy as that, then you know you got them all. Now we're going to take a look at the power jack here and see what's going on. I'm putting that screwdriver in the power jack hole there to shake the pin around. Now the pin inside the power jack may be loosely attached to the motherboard, and that's why you're not getting a connection. Now mind you, that cord, the power adapter cord, is not plugged in right now to the outlet, to the wall, so doesn't have power. And you'll see that that center pin, the one that's actually pointing in a different direction, is loose from the motherboard. It's not actually making connection on the motherboard there.